Thank you so much, Noelene, for your time. We'll just start off with the first question. So tell me a bit about the work of DIVA and how you came to be the Executive Director for DIVA for Equality.
DIVA for Equality, or Diverse Voices in Action for Equality, is actually a lesbian, bisexual, and trans and queer people-led group from the Pacific, and that's quite an unusual set of work, I would say. And how we started was there was a lot of quite violent homophobic and transphobic reaction to many young people at the time that we started in 2011. And so we had a group of young people who came to my partner and I and said, please, can you help us? Now, we've gone from those early, sets to 5 work streams that really cut across all kinds of issues. So they include universal human rights and sexual rights, and they include bodily autonomy and integrity, universal human rights. And then the second work stream is really trying to connect social, economic, ecological, and climate justice, because we know that a person has, so many facets to ourselves. And we said from the very beginning that we really don't want to just talk to people about one aspect of who we are as women and who we are as human beings. And then the third set of work is around support and accompaniment for those who are doing this work, activists and advocates, because we found that there's a lot of trauma also and a need for support for each other who are in social movements, not just feminist social movements, but across all of us who are doing work on for development justice and human rights. And then the fourth set of work that we do is really urgent action. And that's about human rights violations, yes, but more and more it's about ecological and climate justice. So the loss and damage that so many of us are already facing across the world. And we were just seeing so many things around cyclones and floods and housing and water and sanitation that are everyday challenges and needs for women in our community. And seeing that and knowing that 99% of our community is experiencing poverty, we really needed to make sure that we're working on these issues together. So that's really who DIVA is.
So as a female leader who has advocated for the realization of rights for women, girls, and gender diverse people, what do you see as the critical issues for them in water and WASH?
There actually a lot. So I'll just very quickly run through some of the issues that are raised by women and girls in Fiji villages and informal settlements include everything from inadequate water sources and the fact that the change, the work to change that is slow and uneven, but there's just an overall lack of washing, bathing water. This leads both to health and illness issues, but also sexual and reproductive health and rights. And what we're finding is that women and girls and small children are impacted the most by these poor water services. And despite the complaints that they're trying to put through women-led groups that we're organizing with, they're really unheard or deprioritized by decision making. We also find there's a real lack of adequate storage and maintenance of water tanks, and that those who are already intersectionally affected by poverty and stigma, they really find it extremely difficult now to secure water supply, about the access to it, but also about the quantity and the quality of water. And we're finding that this is worsening because of the intra-state movement of people in Fiji, but also across climate frontline states here in the Pacific. We also found that in COVID-19, people went back to their villages and to their major, their main households, their wider households. And so that led to some rising water insecurity as well. the village development committees, so that equipment is often failing, and then that makes the water supply intermittent and insecure. The last point I'd raise is that during cyclones and other disasters like floods and tsunamis and the volcanoes eruption that we had in Tonga last year, also that water becomes even more contaminated, and this has health implications for those who don't have any other improved sources of water for daily consumption. And I'd just say that I think there's a lot of people who don't understand that actually in the Pacific, we have the lowest combined rates globally per capita of improved water and basic sanitation. So that means that nearly a third of Pacific people still rely, as you know, on surface water sources for drinking. Thanks.
What is the most important message you would like global water and wash policymakers to hear to carry forward in the water action agenda?
There are 2 young women from the DIVA networks who will be at the UN Water Conference. And we've been trying to make sure that we're building, helping to build political will. This is a moment when we can do that with the UN World Water Conference. It's another opportunity. More feminists and women human rights defenders than ever are working on basic human rights than ever before, including on water and sanitation, as a result of seeing actually poorer human rights and development results by states, the UN and the development sector, and ourselves as communities in the last 10 to 15 years. The next thing I'd like to say is that we need government highest level and urgent commitments to research and address issues of gender, human rights, water and sanitation, ways that are about SRHR, in intersectional ways that look at the differences between women and also in climate justice. We have masses and masses of both evidence and also anecdotal storytelling from our constituencies and communities that tell us that we need to work on gender equality and social inclusion and issues of disability rights and water and sanitation as the highest priority right now, particularly as women from climate frontline states like ourselves are living in times of ecocide and also that we need to protect ourselves and our water and sanitation and our food sovereignty in these difficult and complex times. Thank you.